This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, also the TSO's marketing director, Felicia Canny, and joining us by phone today in the interests of social distancing is the principal second violin and artistic administrator of the TSO, Merwin Sue. Hello, Merwin.
It is so weird to be on the other side of this line.
Yeah, tell me where you are right now talking to us.
I am sitting on the back porch, which is not the kind of sunny pina colada sort of thing that it sounds. It is actually very, very wintry right now.
Yeah, the back porch of your house, right? Not some bar down
absolutely.
the street. Yeah, okay.
No, he's outside of WGTE right now.
We just want to make sure.
WGTE back porch.
We just want to make sure. Okay, well, today's show is being released, as you may know, on April 1st. And, you know, in the age of coronavirus, we hesitate to do an April Fool's episode. In fact, we're calling this, not April Fool's, but we decided that we needed to be funny anyway. So, April Fool's, we're going to go ahead and do an April Fool's show.
Remind me never to celebrate a holiday with you.
And, well, I mean, we could all use some levity right now, and we hope that all of our listeners do too. Of course, that means that we have to be funny and not just think we're funny. So, pressure's on, Merwin, out there on your back porch. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. First of all, let's talk about this project that you've spearheaded online, Merwin, that has really taken off. It's very popular, inspired by sporting events that would normally happen this time of year but are not happening, and you've sort of repurposed it for the world of composing and music, and it's a lot of fun. I want to hear you explain for us what it is.
Absolutely. And I think this is actually something that a long time ago, one of Felicia's predecessors at the marketing position, Ashley Marakian, and I, we did this at a party, and it was an incredible amount of fun. We took...
Hang on a second. Let me get a little background music for you. Okay, let me pull that down. All right, Merwin, you're up. Tell us all about it.
So there I was at the gym. Shooting some hoops.
April Fools.
I am so confused right now.
So typically during the month of March, college basketball is a huge thing, and it's something that, because of the coronavirus, we're missing. We're missing all of these great tournament games. And so we're very, very excited to present a bracket of composers that was basically inspired by this sort of thing. You take 64 different composers, you kind of rank them. The 1 seeds are maybe the most popular composers, the ones who you think will go the furthest in the bracket. And then the 16 seeds are the glad to be here composers, and maybe the composers who had a tough regular season, something like that. And then we face them off one against the other in a kind of it's kind of like Brahms versus Radiohead, but totally different.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
What are seeds?
Well, they're these little things that you put in the ground. Right?
That's actually where it comes from.
You water them.
Yeah.
Make sure they get plenty of sun.
Merwin, do you know the answer?
Am I on the right track, Merwin?
I'll let Zach take this question.
Nobody wants to touch this. Yeah, so yay. It's bad when I do it. So it comes from tennis, I think. Golf? Tennis. It comes from another sport. And so it used to be the same sort of thing where you would you create the ladders, what we think of as a bracket now, but you create ladders of teams, but of players. So you'd put the best players in front on like a little slip of paper, and then the progressively less best players farther back, and that looked like little seedling packets. So they started calling them seeds. And then you would put the tournaments together based on the one at the back and the one at the front. So just like you kind of plant your garden, the best are at the front and the stuff you don't need as much is at the back.
I like my explanation better. What do you think?
I'm learning a lot from both
Yeah.
of you.
Have you
Yeah.
ever planted a garden, Felicia?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a
I
black
have
thumb.
limited
so.
life experiences. I was born in the 80s.
We never let her out of the office, folks.
No, but you do have a pet rock collection, as we know. So
Yeah, we definitely have to talk about that too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the composers. First of all, give us examples, Merwin, of these first seed composers, the ones that we think are going to last the longest. Who's included in that group?
So because I started the challenge, I decided to establish the first seeds, and those were Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, and Wagner. And Wagner was actually, I think Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart were the easiest choices for the three seeds. And that fourth seed one is a really tricky choice. There's so many composers who you could put there. And Wagner is actually not one of my favorite composers, which might be why I actually paired him against a really tough opponent in the 16 seeds, but he still won anyway.
Wow. Yeah. And an upset, I guess you would say. A little bit of an upset.
Not really.
Well, he was a preferred
hoping for
seed.
I was hoping for the upset.
So I'm fascinated. How did you pick fourth place? Why did you end up with Wagner, and whom else did you consider?
Wagner's definitely extraordinarily influential. I think I went with that body of influence as opposed to necessarily, I tried to take my personal feelings out of it, which has not been the way the bracket has evolved. The bracket has evolved to be a massive cesspool of personal feelings, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been great. but
that's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I
have
decided
fun.
that I wanted a composer with a great deal of influence, and I think also somebody who you can talk about a lot. Like Wagner, no matter what, people have opinions about. And I think when we're doing this, this is the actual objective is not to determine the greatest composer in the history of the world, which is, of course, the exact stated objective that I said it was.
I was going to
Right,
mention
because
that.
I would save you all the time that you are wasting right now by just telling you it's going to be Mahler.
Yeah.
The objective is to have these fun conversations and to stimulate all this fun discussion and to have a lot of fun with it. And I thought that putting Wagner as a first seed would definitely do that.
Who was he
These
against? Who was the 16 seed that he was against in the first
Puccini,
round?
right?
Puccini.
Puccini, yeah,
Wasn't it?
two opera greats, two opera giants there.
Wow.
And Wagner won.
Wagner won.
There's some
It was
interesting matchups that have come out of this between different composers and people voting. Can you guys name some of the more interesting ones, or the ones that had more engagement?
So I think that the way the tournament sets up is the first seeds match up against the 16th seeds, the second seeds match up against the 15th seeds, and then it kind of goes down to third versus 14th, etc. So the 8, 9 seeds have had some really, really interesting matchups. And
who picked those?
Totally by coincidence. And this is actually true. I didn't realize this until I was
No,
putting
you
this
rigged
together.
it.
I did not. Felicia chose the 9 seeds, and Zach chose the 8 seeds.
Wow, so you guys were facing off each other, right?
Every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't get
And it was
away.
really fun. And I was like, first I sent this message to them. It's like, don't worry, guys. You don't have to try to root for the composers. It's not personal. And of course, it became intensely personal.
Yeah, Felicia's really competitive. I'm just going to point this out.
No,
Well,
it's just
I
fun.
got a
It's
little.
fun, guys.
I got a taste of that when we had Felicia's Copeland up
Should we
against
read the thread?
somebody's Dvorak, right? And I originally voted for Copeland, and then I saw they were tied, and I was like, hey, if I switch over to Dvorak now, he'll be in the lead, right? And it wasn't all that. It was I was
You
motivated
realized
by the comments.
that if you had to pick, like, you can't let that Copeland guy win because you probably thought, like I did, that Dvorak would easily run away with it.
I didn't pay attention to it being
That's what I thought.
Dvorak. I was just like hitting buttons, but Felicia took it quite personally that I abandoned her, and you tried to
Abandon, that's the right word.
You tried to bribe me back into Copeland with cookies or something. It was quite a quite
Yeah,
an
Dietz
interaction.
chocolate, I want to just point out.
Yes, go to
Yeah.
Dietz's.
Okay. Well, I was close.
Should we do a dramatic reading of the comments because they're quite epic?
Well, you have the comments there, so you have
Actually,
to do all the voices.
it won't load.
You have to do
I
all
think
the
Zach.
voices.
Zach.
I don't
might
even
have it.
remember what.
It was the longest thread. It was like what 80 comments,
Here, let me bring in our introduction
and then there was just a
music.
lot of. I laughed so hard at the at how quickly people responded to one another.
You have to
Yeah.
bear with me. I can't, for some
Yeah.
reason,
I
it's
can't
not
load
loading
it.
that.
Does Merwin have it? But he's on the phone.
No.
No,
Let's hang on a second
I'll
while you
get
go
it
ahead
here.
and get it.
There, Dvorak Copeland. I just saw it. There it is. Okay. It's like it knows that I was talking about it. Okay.
Okay, Zach has got it. He's gonna read it off his phone. Some of the comments.
Are you gonna do voices?
I think there were like 80 comments, so you
There-
don't have to do all
No, I
of
won't go
them.
through. I'll flip through. One player said it upsets me that I must make this choice. Gah. My head hurts. My heart hurts. Then Felicia, of course, chimes in and says, I understand what you're going through. This is a really tough decision to make, but the default should go to the majority.
At
and
that
at that
time,
point,
it was
Copeland was
Copeland.
winning. To which I responded, lovingly, Dvorak all the way. And that started up a bunch of people talking about this. Somebody said, same, hands down. Merwin chimes in and said, I really thought this would be closer. And then Felicia wrote in, but simple gifts. Anybody who wants to vote for Dvorak, think about simple gifts. And then somebody chimed in and said, Felicia, but from the New World.
That was so
And then Merwin responded, fight, fight, fight.
in all capital letters. Caps matter.
I'll see your simple gifts and raise you a new world.
But
Right.
from the new world.
That's but from the New World. And then Brad chimed in and said, now I'm really thinking we should have put Sam Adler in here. He would outlast them all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Got a good response with that one. I wish I'd have
Yeah.
thought of it when I was seeding my seed. But,
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Some inner office dialogue really erupted when Dvorak started to come back, and I said, "Come on, Dvorak, closing the gap. Don't let that little simple gift stop on your going home." Felicia wrote back, "Simple gifts, fanfare for the common man, Lincoln portrait." To which I
In all caps,
responded,
with periods.
"Cello concerto, Ninth Symphony, Slavonic dances, Rusalka, Dumki trio."
Lowercase.
Exclamation
Yeah.
points abounding. And we just continued on. There were some really interesting statements. A conductor that we sometimes work with chimed in that New World Symphony is more American than Copeland. Bang. That ended up with a lot of comments. I also got a lot of texts about that one.
Wow.
Another conductor said, here's a hot take. Some people don't actually like Copeland. They just like Appalachian Spring, Hoedown, and Fanfare for the Common Man.
All good
And
pieces.
All good pieces, but that doesn't mean that you really like Copeland. And at this, Brad Cresswell changed the entire sequence of the race when he said, "Okay, y'all convinced me to change my vote." And
I was not
this-
happy.
And
responded-
Felicia freaked out. Go ahead.
she freaked out. And this is Felicia freaking out on Facebook. She wrote, all caps, Brad, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
Yeah, which I could hear in your voice. There are only two women in my life that I can hear my name being said in that way, and one of them is my mother,
Yeah.
and the other one is you,
man.
Felicia.
Brad.
Yeah.
And
That's amazing.
it was great. Brad responded, professionally, saying, hee hee. Friend of the show, Tom Harms, said, A2, Brad.
Yeah. Well, it is
So
March.
a little backstabbing going on there. After that, really the tide was with Dvorak. He took the lead. He kept up. It did remain a photo finish, which is why Felicia offered Brad a bribe of Deitch Brothers chocolate-covered pretzels if he would change his vote back to
Family
Copeland.
delicacy just
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
And Merwin had to come in as commish and say, this is an unbelievably tight race, and if the vote is tied, we would extend voting for 30 minutes, but otherwise he would call voting at 1:30 and 0 seconds.
Wait, can I intervene
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
And that ruling was painful because I think behind the scenes, I kept trying to get people to vote for Copeland, like personal asks.
And they're like, as
And
soon
then he
as I
was
get
going to
off work.
extend it, and I couldn't find more people.
So
Yeah.
you were stuffing the ballot box?
No, they could
You
go
can't
in
do
and
that.
vote.
Hey, she still lost. Can I just say one
Were there
thing here?
rules?
Can I just say one thing here? We've been talking about this for the last 15 minutes. We're, you know, judging by everything we've said so far, we are not nerds at all.
No, totally not.
Highly
Yeah.
intelligent music fans is the way I'd like to position that statement.
Merwin.
This is what happens when you take
I'm gonna
sports and put it in the hands of musicians, right?
I'm going to interfere here and say that I think actually the better derogatory term to use is geeks.
Geeks,
Because
okay.
when you're geeked out about something, you're just really, really excited by it.
Yeah.
And I think that one thing that I just love about this is it combines the incredible passion that we all have for our favorite composers and then adds the element of competition. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
I mean, I completely agree with you, Merwin. I'm just so happy that Dvorak managed to win despite Felicia's wicked efforts.
He screenshotted the result right at 1:30 so that there would be no.
No question.
Well,
yeah,
I mean-
because people kept voting after that.
They did.
And,
Yeah.
and they were
It
running.
just kept going
back
up
and
for
Yeah.
forth.
Dvorak, actually, yeah.
Well, I want to talk more
For
about
Copeland.
this, but
Copeland.
I want to give Copeland a rest here, and he can come back and we can
Oh,
talk
he
some
has
more
plenty
about
of time
this.
to rest. He's out of the tournament.
Yeah, let's talk about April Fool's Day
Zach.
because this is our April Fool's episode, right? So we got to get into the April Fool's thing.
I feel like the April Fools will be, wait a second, they're actually going to spend the entire episode talking about the
Yeah,
we'll just call it. And
Well,
that's the episode.
so we have to keep going, is what you're saying?
I would just
No,
love
I'm
to say, if we're going to leave this topic, there are some hilarious matchups. I think Merwin did a great job kind of pairing up some of these composers. Shostakovich versus Scott Joplin, I thought was rather interesting.
Wow.
Duke Ellington versus Scarlatti. I thought that was...
Alessandro Scarlatti, not Domenico.
I missed that
Oh,
part.
yeah.
I missed that
That
part.
was a very interesting
Yeah.
one.
Um,
I
Hildegard
I'm
versus
most
Philip
excited-
Glass.
Yeah, I can see
I'm
the
most
connections.
excited
But
by- I'm most excited by the Andrew Lloyd Webber versus Berlioz. That's
Andrew Lloyd
That's-
Webber versus who? Say it again.
Berlioz.
Berlioz. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two bloated egos facing off together.
Can we just say though that Merwin has been writing fantastic copy to
Yes.
to set up these face-offs? You were talking about Berlioz, in his dress and wig with a knife going after Andrew Lloyd Webber. I mean, stuff that
That
is musically
actually happened.
informed.
No,
Yeah.
but it's actually there. It was it was that. Let's face it, Berlioz is going to take Andrew Lloyd Webber out back, poison him, stab him, and shoot him while dressed in a bleeping French maid's outfit. And I'm here, and I'm there for every freaking second of it.
That is music history as it should be taught, right there, right? Because Berlioz, as we know, was a fruitcake, but a
But
musical
actually,
genius.
Do people know about this? That's not. I didn't pull that. That was just not a figment of my imagination.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that happened.
That's a real thing. He was coming back from his time in Rome after he won the Prize of Rome, and he had been there for a while. And in the meantime, his fiancée had decided to shack up with somebody else, and he decided he was going to go back and kill him, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And-
He obtained a French maid's outfit. He obtained vials of poison and pistols, and he was going to poison and stab him and then shoot himself. That was his plan.
yeah.
And then he got off the train, I believe, in Nice, and then
That's nice.
decided to lie down in a field of flowers and missed his train. And so there he was in a French maid's outfit.
This
Oh,
is
he was
a-
in a
Field of
French maid
flowers in
outfit?
Nice.
This has to be in a movie
Oh.
somewhere. Somebody has to make a Berlioz movie if they haven't done it already.
It's a perfect
Yeah.
character for a movie. Seriously.
Yeah. Anyway,
Can
we're
we
getting
just
so
stop?
off track.
Well,
Right.
here.
one that I would really love to talk about, though, because I think this one warrants some conversation, is Franz Josef Haydn versus Sergei Rachmaninoff.
Oh,
Haydn was a
that
second
great.
seed, and Rachmaninoff was a 15 seed. And it's a really brilliant 15 seed. Like, you think about,
Absolutely.
Rachmaninoff, he's had a bad season. Every time his concerti are played, there are too many notes. Haydn is the father of the symphony, really created the quartet, string quartet repertoire from my perspective. How did he lose this from his reputation?
Yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow too. And also Haydn, one of the funniest composers who ever lived, worked all those musical jokes into his music before Mozart came along with his, musical joke. But I mean, Haydn's somebody who, when you really listen to his stuff, I mean, it's so unpredictable. And that I think that was, what gave birth to the idea of the modern symphony, or at least the classical symphony and the string quartet and things like that. I mean, Haydn, such inventive music for his time. I don't know.
And I guess the question I'm wrestling with is, it was inventive for his time. Is it still inventive from our time, or are we in a time now that's much more suited to Rachmaninoff?
I don't know. I mean, Rachmaninoff, among all these people, is the only one tall enough to play basketball, probably. Well, at 6'6" and those great big, enormous, piano hands, he probably would have done pretty well on the court.
Armand, who used to intern with the symphony, is now teaching in Texas, right?
Yes, Texas.
Had a great comment on this. He said, Haydn's reliable. He can shoot from anywhere on the court, and he would play some good old-fashioned fundamental ball. Rachmaninoff's flashy, and he will shoot the half-court buzzer beater, but he also has his fundamentals on lock. He studied and played with all the greats that came before him. Rachmaninoff is the LeBron in this situation, and Haydn is Larry Bird.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like Larry Bird.
Well,
but,
sure.
Yeah.
And I like Haydn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
So I think in this case, you kind of you're actually coming down to who's voting, who the electorate is, right? And I think in this case, it's a lot of orchestral musicians, and any violinist gets a chance to play both Haydn and Rachmaninoff. But if you're thinking about a lot of brass players, they only play one or the other, right? Like, I think if you're a piano player, I think you're more likely to be voting for Rachmaninoff as well. And I think it's just one of those things. We always talk about in Toledo how, Toledo loves Rachmaninoff. Maybe if we were holding the tournament in a different city, we would have had a different result.
Interesting.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So
in France, maybe. Or Rachmaninoff and... I'm blanking now. Who was he fighting?
Haydn.
Haydn. That's it.
Oh, you already forgot.
And I was actually looking at a quiz that I have here with his name on it. Yeah. Haydn.
Oh my, that's great.
Because I was thinking about other composer matchups that I would have liked to have seen, like Philip Glass and Franz Schubert, because they have the same birthday, right? And they have some kind of strophic similarities between them. So that would have been an interesting matchup.
So just to explain, committee members each chose a line of seeds, and then so like Zach gave me the 8 seeds, Felicia gave me the 9 seeds, and then I had to try to find what I thought were the compelling matchups between the two. So it's not like I could just rig the bracket to do, say, a Philip Glass and Franz Schubert.
Yeah, but basically what you just described, you are rigging the bracket. I mean, you're picking stuff that you think works
in a
together.
Controlled environment.
Yeah.
But I only get 4 options from each thing. It's not like I get to choose any composer and put it against any composer.
I thought you did a really good job balancing things. There was some really interesting. I could tell you had a little bit of sense of music history and reputational face-offs. I loved that you made Bernstein versus Mahler. I thought that was spirited. You had Richard Strauss versus Satie, which I said to Felicia is like an elephant sitting on a canary.
Okay, let me jump in because I did all this research for April Fool's Day and we're not using any of it.
Which is a really great thing to do for April Fool's research.
Yeah, April Fool's on me. But I mean, talking about April Fool's Day, okay, and nobody really knows where it came from. It may have been like when they switched calendars back in the 1500s from Julian to Gregorian. It used to be that New Year's Day was April 1st. Then they moved it back to January 1st. And then
it's January 1st?
For all the people in the Western world, yeah. For all the people that thought it was still April 1st, they called them April Fools, right? So that's one possibility. There are other things, it's related to the spring equinox, the vernal equinox, and Roman festivals, things like that. The one thing that we do know for sure is that the kick me sign was invented by the Scottish in the 18th century. That was a practice that they used to do. That I don't know what kick me would be in their language, but
was the kick me sign taped to somebody's back or pinned probably in those days?
Yeah, that was the idea. Okay. So that's just an example of different prank ideas, that you can play on somebody. The kick me sign might be a little hard to pull off, but I've got a list of pranks here. Exactly.
And social distancing.
That's true.
Hey, yeah. I haven't thought about how many of these. Most of these you can do
Except
with
if-
social distancing because you prepare the scene and then you run away. And as long as you're watching from 6 feet away.
But instead of
you can get away
saying
with
kick
it.
me, you'd have to say like poke me with a selfie stick.
Yeah, or get away from me or something like that.
But how do you slap
Yeah,
a
but then
sign
how
on
do you know?
someone? You need to like touch
That's a good
them.
point. Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to put it on their shirt
Yeah.
before they put it on.
So anyway, in the limited time we have left, I want to get in some ideas for pranks. Some of them I'm sure we all know, but there's still time. You know, April Fool's isn't over yet for folks who are listening to us on the radio. So one of them is, you can attach an air horn to somebody's seat, right, when they sit down. This is like an office chair. These are office
An
pranks.
air horn.
An air horn.
Not
This
A
is
whoopee
taking
cushion?
a whoopee cushion to a new degree.
I have
Yeah.
a whoopee cushion.
Okay.
Why did you look at me when
Good
you
to
said
know.
that?
She pointed at you too. The other thing you can do is like instead of caramel apples, you can make caramel onions. Fun activity.
Oh, that's horrible.
Fun activity for the kids at home. You can do that. Another one you can do. This is great. And this is something you'd have to play on members of your family. I would think, unless you just have random people living with you, which is entirely possible.
Well, in this day of social distancing, that's not
Yeah.
recommended.
But you go in the shower and you unscrew the shower head, right? And you put in a little chicken bouillon cube in
Sounds
the
horrible.
shower, and then screw it back on. So when they take a shower, they're getting
It's
chicken
like
soup,
raining chicken.
right? I can tell Zach's going to try this at home.
Yes, let
That's
us
a
know
great
how
one.
that goes.
And then what you have to do at the same time, you take the bar of soap and you paint over it with nail polish so it doesn't sud or anything. So
it doesn't
do
work?
anything. Yeah. You'll know if
These
your
are
spouse.
from your past experiences,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Those pranks all through high school.
Now, Brad,
Yeah.
I grew up in a family of 9. I can't believe that nobody's ever done this in my house.
Yeah.
Because we love to prank.
These would be great pranks. Do you guys have any examples of pranks that you think are fun or that have happened to you or that you've ever pulled on somebody else?
I don't do pranks.
You don't do pranks? There's this great. I found.
I
This,
have one favorite one.
Oh wait, I do have I did do
okay,
a prank.
Go for it.
Well, it's not really a prank, but I think we just Merwin? We just
Are you still there, Merwin? Are you laughing or dying?
Dying. He's
okay.
dying. Yes.
Sounded like a cough,
He's
and we
di-
all freaked out.
He's dying of laughter.
this is not really a prank, but we in the marketing department wrapped Zach's door with a big banner. Brahms versus Radiohead. That's
Yeah,
not a prank.
I was very happy about it. I'm very sad when people took it down.
Yeah.
Somebody did once festoon my office with Post-it notes everywhere. My favorite prank that I ever played on somebody else is that I got a very good friend of mine who is not particularly fond of felines a year's subscription to Cat Fancy in his name.
It's better than Fancy Feast. They like send cat food to their door every week for a year.
Why am I getting cat food?
No, it's just because everybody gets hit up for different school fundraisers and magazine drives. So whenever
Yeah.
that happens, I just send them a outdoor living magazine or something like that.
Cat Fancy.
Yeah.
I've seen people talking online about there's a service that you can sign up somebody's phone number to, and then they get cat messages.
I want that.
Yeah. We'll have to look into that. That's because, Felicia, because some people would do it not as
Willingly.
a prank. Yeah.
I like cat messages.
I think that's why they have it. I want to tell you about a fun little thing that happened back in the 60s. This was from the BBC radio. And, the 60s, it was a time of great experimentation in music. And you have people like John Cage and other composers who are opening the door to pretty much anything being music. So BBC, they decided what they would do is they would air a piece of music that was actually fake. It was on April 1st. They got some percussionists into a room with a bunch of different things, and they were like, just bang on these. You guys just make up a piece, and we'll invent the backstory, right? So the name of the composer was Piotr Zak, Z-A-K. Right?
Whoa.
Yeah,
Sounds
just
like a
you.
really smart guy.
Piotr Zak. And
That's Zach's real name.
there were a couple of percussionists with fancy names that supposedly did this, and it was called Mobile for Tape and Percussion, or maybe it's Mobile. I'm not sure what they would say. Mobile for Tape and Percussion. You can find this online. It's actually on YouTube, and you can listen to the original broadcast, which is very serious and talking about this composer and everything. evidently it got reviews. It was reviewed by it was taken totally
This joke is out of
seriously
hand.
by the establishment. Now, to their credit, most of the reviewers said that it was pretty bad, but
Wait, is this like Scotch tape? Like you wrap gifts with that tape?
no, like tape, like pre-recorded
tape.
tape.
Like cassette tapes?
Yeah.
tape, yeah.
But even
Okay,
though
I'm just
they
checking.
they were just making it up as they went along.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And listening to it now, having heard all the pieces of music that have been invented since, it doesn't sound that far afield from a lot of music that is out there. So this you can find on YouTube. It's really fun to listen to.
I remember NPR used to always have a fake story. Do they still do that?
Yeah, I think they do. I'm sure they do.
I just love it when the world kind of falls for things like that. That's
How
great.
many have you fallen for? Because I've fallen for a
I've
few of
fallen
them.
for several. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Edwards used to have some really great April Fool's jokes.
Felicia, I think you've fallen for all of them, haven't you?
Well, once I was in a bathroom and
Hang on a second. Let me get some music for
Next.
this.
no, this is I'm just painting the picture of what people assume about me, and they're correct. But I was in the bathroom, and I think this was like a public restroom. Someone had flushed, and at the same time, someone else said, "Look, Gullible is on the ceiling," and I didn't hear anything because of the flushing. So I looked up, and they're like, "Wow, that is so Felicia."
Wait, I don't
So
get it.
Felicia.
Gullible is on the ceiling? What does that mean? Like a word gullible?
Yes, and then you look up, and it's not there. This is horrible music.
Yeah.
It's like a clown car. Where did you think the story was
Clown
going, Brad?
car music. I don't know. It could be anywhere. But yeah, it could have been
It's
anything.
tame.
You guys
So
have
I don't
any
play jokes.
favorite examples of musical jokes? Anything stand out for you?
Are we allowed to use kazoos?
If you got them, hey, flaunt them.
No, I always think back to the Surprise Symphony, which does have a kazoo story there. But that to me was, when I was a kid, one of the first times I realized that there was humor and laughter coming through the music, just because I can only imagine everybody sitting in a theater back in Haydn's day and jumping at the sudden brass announcement.
We're going to stop right there because we have limited time today, but I do want to thank everybody who took part in our little April Fool's episode. We spent a lot of time talking about musical mayhem, but also got in a little bit about April Fool's itself. So, you can certainly, I'm sure, come up with your own pranks to play. It's still a little bit of time. And honestly, any time is a good time for pranks. It's kind of like Mahler or Bach. Any time is a good time for a little pranking.
Pranking, indeed. Especially when we're all, sequestered and staying at home with our loved ones. Yeah.
So kids at home, we gave you some ideas. Make sure you don't tell anybody you got them from us. I'm looking forward to Felicia and Zach trying out the soap and the chicken shower
I think I'm going to go home and short sheet some beds.
at home. There you go. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. With generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation, you can download episodes of our show as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. My thanks, of course, to Merwin Sue for joining us by phone. Thanks, Merwin. Stay home, stay safe, and stay healthy. Also to Felicia Canny and Zach Vassar. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.